so now he was famous and basically getting said by two well-known guys. I'm gonna start again.
I can't pretend like hearing Robert Downey Jr. open a film with bumbling narration doesn't make me want to go back and watch Kiss Kiss Bang Bang again, his other film with Shane Black.
Guy that lives in a blue world.
What better way to confirm that it's definitely 1999 than with a little Lifeless 65? Jon Favreau totally owning that mullet is absolutely a win. Ah, Yinsen, tying our continuity into Iron Man 1 and showing that everything he said was true.
Perhaps another time?
Advanced Idea Mechanics, or AIM for short. You get it?
I see that because it's on your t-shirt.
Even when Tony is inebriated and has other things on his mind, he's still picking up information that will be useful 14 years later. Guy Pearce's audition to be Peter Wayland. No, I swear, he's got looking and acting gross down to a science.
You're the most gifted woman I've ever met.
Wow.
In Switzerland.
That's better. Wow, you're
This
saying
week.
things.
Compliments?
Seeds prevention, even limerick growth.
This is what I'm talking about, the glitch.
People regenerating then exploding shadowing. For all the work that the MCU has done in getting us to love Tony up until this point, we always got the impression that he was a super jerk at one time. Leaving a somewhat disabled man on the roof with the promise of working together really solidifies his pre-Yinsen helps him build an Iron Man suit days. Starting with Mark 42, Iron Man 3 really delivers on the other Iron Man suits. Obviously the big exhibition comes later, but you gotta love the suit you can call to you, and as will be used multiple times later, call to others as well. Also, it's kind of a reference to what happens in the Extremis comic story. Ooh, superhero flip and landing.
I'm the best.
Hashtag check your hubris.
Then I had to go and turn on the TV.
I'm not going to deny that the Mandarin marketing was a tad bait and switchy, and I totally understand why people were upset by the misdirect. But as I've said a few times now in other MCU videos, in the Iron Man universe, even isolated from the MCU, they've created as realistic a reality for Iron Man as we'll accept. And Killian's admission that
Ever since that big dude with the hammer fell out of the sky, subtlety's kind of had its day.
you need to get a little theatrical to get people's attention, even if Iron Man's villains in the MCU trilogy are pretty much always angry businessmen. And the fact that the Mandarin terrorizes under the pretense of teaching lessons rather than just being a typical terrorist makes him all the more terrifying.
America, ready for another lesson.
Whoa, I got totally distracted there. Point was, Ben Kingsley is amazingly intimidating no matter what capacity he's a part of the film.
You'll never see me coming.
You're gonna come at me like that?
Look, I'm not trying to be a dick.
Tater.
Self-censoring.
I loved you in A Christmas Story, by the way.
How did you get out of the wormhole?
Man, can you imagine if Ralphie asked you that? I'd immediately start thinking I never actually made it out and was stuck in some kind of Jatari purgatory. Kid looks more like Randy though. And fun fact, Ralphie, aka Peter Billingsley, was in Iron Man. He was the scientist who Obadiah yells at for not creating a mini arc reactor. You know, the guy who wasn't Tony Stark in a cave with scraps.
Listen, the Pentagon is scared. After New York, aliens.
I appreciate that Tony instinctively writes "Help me" the second Rhodey mentions New York and aliens. There's literally nothing I don't believe about Jon Favreau walking through a building telling people they should be wearing badges. He got to direct without all the hassle.
It's an idea we like to call extremis.
But trust me when I say we'll never use any extreme tactics. Also, now that I say that out loud, are your hands and feet called extremities because they're at the extreme or farthest points of your body? Learn something new every day.
Now, pinch my arm.
Ladies and gentlemen, flirting for the technological age.
Sorry.
You ate without me already on date night?
I love that Pepper is not upset that Tony was remotely interacting with her, but that he ate dinner without her on date night. Finally, a chance to see what really happens when Happy the Boxer hits you in the face. These Extremis powers would have been useful for Chase when him and Jack were dealing with that bomb that one time.
Fortune cookies will leave a bad taste in the mouth.
Your metaphor falls apart for me, Mandarin. Fortune cookies are a delicious win.
Downton Abbey. That's a show. He thinks it's elegant.
And he's correct. Sometimes it's easy to forget that even though Tony is dealing with his own mortality through panic attacks, he's also an arrogant billionaire who likes to pretend he's invincible. Then throw an attack at his best friend and he's not going to be thinking too clearly. So yes, home address is dumb, but no one can know how they'd react when something like this happens. And in a lot of ways, flying off the handle and being reckless could even be seen as another manifestation of his PTSD.
Film me.
Whether you're a hologram denier or not, I don't think anyone can argue that being able to step inside a holographic recreation of a crime scene would be a helpful way to solve that crime, and an engaging way to dump exposition.
You're not the Mandarin. Are you?
Is somebody there?
Yeah, it's Maya Hansen.
Ha! See, he may have recognized her, probably not. But he was just inside his suit where Jarvis is constantly giving him information through his HUD on pretty much everything in the known universe. Oof, saving your pepper and a potential self-sacrifice in the same awesome slow-mo move.
I got you.
You could say rescue to the rescue? Tony makes it look so easy. There's drowning, and then there's drowning while watching thousands of tons of your extravagant concrete home headed towards you to pin you at the bottom of the ocean. Self-rescue, or Jarvis to the rescue, I guess?
All right, kill the alarm.
Love the idea that he could doze off and wake up thousands of miles away. Fun setup for the broken and beaten down section of the film.
Iron Man and War Machine?
It's Iron Patriot now.
That's way cooler.
No, it's not.
By far, my favorite thing about this film is the way Tony treats little Jurassic World kid.
You know what keeps going through my head? Where's my sandwich?
Equal parts condescending like an adult, can't be bothered, and supremely annoyed.
Which happens, dads leave, no need to be a better.
All right, everybody, no talking and no eye contact unless you want to get shot in the face.
I like that can be taken either way. Kingsley is the Mandarin, and he'll shoot you in the face for looking at him. Or part of Trevor's method acting is to not make eye contact, and Killian will shoot you in the face if you break him out of character. Personally, I like to think Killian keeps his anonymity even amongst his henchmen. One thing, good or bad, about these panic attacks is that they humanize Tony Stark very well. You could take the next step into alcoholism, but this is a strong start. That's just all kinds of brutal.
Crazy, huh? Yeah. You walked right into this one. I've dated hotter chicks than you.
This comes up again, but I love that Tony isn't an action hero. He's doing his best, but really he's much better at throwing words than fists.
Cheap trick and a cheesy one-liner.
Sweetheart, that could be the name of my autobiography.
John, it's your cousin Marvin. Marvin Nolan? You know that new reboot you've been looking for? Well, listen to this.
You like that, Westworld?
One-off repulsor weapon is for sure a win.
Admit it. You need me. We're connected.
Can you feel that? We're done here.
I'm cold.
I can tell. You know how I can tell? Because we're connected.
Such a power move, fake or not. What's funny is that he could have had anyone call the phone since he had no intention of talking to the president. But the statement that not even a call from the president could change anything is scary. If you'd been paying attention as a person standing opposite Tony's holographic screen, you would have noticed that earlier.
You look up and suddenly she's glowing from the inside out, kind of a bright orange.
Yeah, I've had that. Who is this?
Marty Kahn's dealt with all kinds of ladies. Well, since we know that Stan Lee is officially the same person across the entire MCU, you have to give him credit for going from impersonating Hugh Hefner to Larry King to a random beauty pageant judge. He's just your everyman.
What's your name?
Gary.
Nah, it's Max.
Pattern my whole look after you. My hair's a little... It's not right because there's no...
But you're correct. Hibernating bear is your best look. Hashtag bring back happy endings.
And those who cannot regulate will be cut from the program.
And let me tell you, the cuts have been known to be explosive. I mean, sure, I get that he's a bad guy, but he is growing that chick's arm back.
Idealistic Werner von Braun dreamed of space travel.
I'm not going to defend anyone who built rockets for the Nazis, even if NASA later hired him. But I enjoy Maya's little attempt at excusing who she's aligning herself with. Not all bad guys ride around with hate tattooed on their foreheads. Some do, but not all.
Gave your research to a think tank.
Yeah, but Killian built that think tank.
So, does a film pass the Bechdel test if you don't know they're talking about a man the whole time?
Yes, you're free. If you weren't before.
Freeing potential slaves. Honestly, I'm still not over what happened to Charlotte last time I saw her. The MacGyver Iron Man suit is definitely one of my favorites. And I do not hate Iron Man kicking everyone's butt sans the suit. And Tony's quick Wing Chun wooden dummy training is finally paying off.
I wouldn't go in there for 20 minutes.
And the reveal that launched 1,000 angry rants. I get it, I do. Still not taking anything away from Ben Kingsley's performance.
What do you mean? It's complicated. Hey, it's complicated, right? It's complicated. I had a little problem with substances, and they knew about the drugs.
What did they say? They get you off them?
Said they'd give me more.
Because, I mean, really, isn't that actually the way to an addict's heart? Don't get addicted to drugs, kids. You could end up a pawn of some crazy terrorist. And Kingsley kills it as Trevor even more so than the Mandarin.
Should have pressed the panic button.
Well, I panicked, but then I handled it.
I said let him go!
Well, at least her morality came back to her in the end. You've been in hotter spots than this, John Littleton? Don Cheadle was in picket fences? How did I not know that? What was I talking about? Sometimes, even if completely out of control, theatricality will win the day. Another superhero landing. Tony's got that down.
Honestly, I hate working here. They are so weird.
Everyone gets a second chance. But only if your one-liner impresses Tony enough. They often do cripple superheroes a little bit to create some tension and make things interesting. This film does it over and over. The first time when he needs to use the piano and other creative ways to destroy the helicopters. Then he fights one gloved and one booted before the rest of his suit arrives, which is awesome. And now he has to walk around like a goofball, and it all really works and doesn't feel forced.
This is the Mandarin?
I know, it's embarrassing.
See, angry comic fans, even Tony's on your side. Sorry, Chelsea fans, but Liverpool beating Chelsea is always, well, a win. First time a bad guy is in a real made-by-Tony suit, although I guess it does have some AIM upgrades. And both Warmonger and Whiplash's suits were based on his designs. Still, he originally made this one. Anyway, point is, you can tell just by how he lands and walks it's a bad guy inside. And this is sort of an homage to the comics, since Norman Osborn also used Iron Patriot to win everyone over and then do bad stuff. Hey, good for you, Styles Stilinski's dad. Fun fact, while this is a pretty great sequence and also 100% real, as in real people really falling, a sequence of problem solving with some stunning imagery, heart-pounding action, and Iron Man does save everyone, Shane Black said in order to put the correct amount of sympathy into the scene, he needed to pretend that the falling people were actually dogs, when presented without comment. That poor guy forgot to say he couldn't swim.
What do you want from me?
Nothing, sir. I found myself a new political patron, and this time tomorrow, you'll have your job.
So Killing's plan is actually pretty great, and it fits right in with everything about his character. He's never one for the spotlight. He'd rather pull the strings behind the scenes. So he creates a terrorist figurehead to remove the current president, and then he has the VP in his pocket with the promise of regrowing his daughter's leg. If his plan had worked, no one would ever have known his name, and he would essentially control the world.
Is your gun up? Yep.
This is probably my favorite short set piece in the film. Tony can fight, even without the suit, but he's still not a soldier. He's never had any combat or stealth incursion training. He's just a smart guy. He's clearly also had very minimal practical firearm experience.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna spot. Ready?
What'd you say?
Too fast. Nothing.
It all leads to that. He's trying. He's trying.
You can't hit a bulb at this distance.
Anti-stormtrooper aim. And now we get the payoff of the thing I was talking about earlier. All the different specialized suits that this film brings in. And it even makes sense since Tony talks about tinkering and building to distract himself from his crippling PTSD and give him something to do when he can't sleep. And they come up with a bunch of different fun suits without wasting comic suits like Hulkbuster, obviously. Saving that one.
Oh, I'm sorry, they're only coded to me.
Evidence Tony's still a little sore about Iron Man 2, since...
Can I give you a lift?
Very funny.
Hugging. And Tons of Suits offers up some fun opportunities for teamwork. Right where the Empire Strikes Back limb severing started in Phase 2. And Rhodey's like the Hawkeye of pistols. He doesn't miss. This may seem like a, well, they're not gonna kill Pepper, come on, type moment, but I think it serves a greater purpose for Tony. I'll get into it more in the conclusion, but I believe his panic attacks have a lot more to do with protecting Pepper than people realize. And when he's done all he can and she still falls, what else can he do? I think he lets go of the control that's been driving him mad this entire film. Oh, brutal. Didn't even notice that broken forearm the first couple times through. Now we get into a section I like to call Suits Are Disposable, I'm Not. And it actually plays well into the theme of this film, that Tony is Iron Man, not the suits. Rocket knee, rocket backhand. Expectation subversion, fake out.
Whatever.
And while it is comical, it's also a turning point for Tony. Remember what happened the last time he had to think about going into battle without a suit?
I need the armor. Where are we at with it?
It's not charging.
I am the Mandarin!
Pepper's alive, and Pepper to the rescue.
I got nothing.
Appropriate response from the One-Liner King. Yep. Who needs rescue when you've got Extrema Pepper? And thankfully, Pepper did figure out the repulsor after all. Also comeuppance.
Am I gonna be okay?
No. You're in a relationship with me. Everything will never be okay.
Honesty.
The clean slate protocol, sir?
Screw it. It's Christmas. Yes.
We went over this a little in Age of Ultron as to why he still has suits in Avengers 2. Clean slate means fresh start. It's that simple. And it's actually a sweet moment when you realize that this film is actually a love story between Tony and Pepper. Each new suit was affixed to a particular problem, a new attack he hadn't thought of. And every time he finished a suit, he'd build another one to deal with something else he hadn't considered. The Clean Slate Protocol is about him finally focusing on her and releasing each of the distractions that kept him from her. Also more hugging. It's sappy, but who doesn't love a feel-good ending for the bullied kid? You can't help that warm and fuzzy feeling.
I am Iron Man.
And that really should confirm for you that the Clean Slate Protocol wasn't Tony turning his back on Iron Man. It's him starting over with a newfound purpose. He doesn't need Iron Man now, he chooses to be Iron Man. 70s style closing credits are a win.
Not my training.
So?
I don't have the
What, the time?
Temperament.
Ruffalo's just mad he'll never get his own Hulk movie. I love everything about the way this film is framed. I know, narration is a sin, blah, 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 blah. Not when you need to use a trope to set up your current story that accomplishes it in a cheeky way. I.e., Tony is actually just spilling his guts to Banner because Banner is a doctor and he's trying to get to the bottom of his anxiety attacks with the man that actually saved his life after the ensuing event that caused said anxiety attacks. Just goes round and round. And as I already mentioned, Robert Downey Jr.'s opening narration is one of a couple things you'll find in common with one of Shane Black's other amazing films, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Leave her ficus alone.
Watch it if you like dark comedy crime drama. I don't even really know how to describe it. It's good. And in a similar way that Winter Soldier was enjoyable because Steve Rogers was the character we follow for most of the movie, Black spends a lot of Iron Man 3 with Tony uncovering the Mandarin mystery in a tech thriller kind of way. And since it's Shane Black, obviously it takes place around Christmas. So one of the biggest things going on in this film is Tony's reaction to the events of the Avengers. I can't and won't try to speak from experience as it pertains to PTSD. All I can hope is that this is a representation that helps at least bring awareness to a very real illness. Whether he overcomes it too easily or panic attacks are the least of a trauma victim's worries, I don't know. I will answer some of the concerns I've heard over the years, like why do the events of the Avengers lead to PTSD for Tony when being kidnapped and trapped in a cave did not? For Tony, I think it comes down to control. While yes, he's been through plenty of terrible and intense things, he usually wins. He outsmarts, outwits, and usually gets away only minimally scathed, able to pat himself on the back. In addition, because he knows he's directly or indirectly culpable for so much of what befalls him in both Iron Man 1 and 2, he's able to take responsibility and deal with it. In the Avengers, in order to win, he needed to lose. He sacrificed himself with little expectation of returning. The Chitauri invasion is something he couldn't control or beat without dying himself. Also, he may have actually been dead for a bit before Hulk roared him back to life. So I do really feel like the panic attacks pertaining to the alien invasion make sense, especially in the context of this movie where he admits how much he needs Pepper, and losing her because of something he can't control would definitely send him spiraling. Speaking of Pepper, I really only have a few minor complaints, but the biggest is that Tony removed Pepper's Extremis powers instead of perfecting them. I know she didn't love him.
That was really violent.
Maybe he left them dormant in case she needs them later? That's what I choose to believe. I really love Gwyneth's Pepper, and I'm glad to see she's coming back for Infinity War, and they seem to have reconciled since Civil War. I loved Sam Rockwell as Hammer so much I may have thrown a little shade at Guy Pearce, and I have to take that back. Pearce really kills the role in a different way from Rockwell, but equally as menacing. Bring them both back. Mickey Rourke too. And there's a theory that Ben Kingsley is the real Mandarin after all. So, alright, you've all been waiting. Here's my defense of why Killian being the real Mandarin actually works. Ben Kingsley Mandarin was created by a think tank to be the exact definition of what the world, and probably more so post 9/11 Americans, fear when they hear the word terror. A vaguely Arab Eastern guy with a big beard talking in platitudes that seem disingenuous to his purpose, making him hard to understand and predict. Someone so cold that they would execute a man on live television just to prove a point. Everything the Mandarin says was written either by Killian or by his think tank. So really, if you're upset about Ben Kingsley not being the Mandarin, you're upset because Killian doesn't look like the Fu Manchu Mandarin from the comics. Once Killian rips his shirt off and you see his tattoos, he definitely comes closer to embracing the Mandarin persona. All that said, it was still a misstep to tease Iron Man's biggest antagonist and then shift gears. I get that months, if not years of speculation and picking apart trailers over whether he'd actually use the 10 rings or why he had that Captain America tattoo, or that time he chambered a round in a pistol that wasn't even in the movie. I get that the filmmakers sort of flipped everyone off. You'd think we'd learn our lesson.
And now you're just gonna leave me here, like my dad?
Yeah.
But this version of the Mandarin is another perfect opposing force to MCU Tony Stark. Killian was a man who couldn't get noticed, and so he embraced that and hid behind a figurehead or symbol. Tony has never hid his identity, and in this film he even goes so far as to throw his home address out there. The Mandarin is a fake conglomeration to instill fear, while Tony learns that he actually is Iron Man even more than the symbol. "You know who I am" comes up a couple times in this film.
You know who I am.
It sort of harkens back to when Cap asked Tony what he was without the suit, and Tony gave a true but also condescending and snarky response. He's lots of things, but what is he to the Avengers? What is he to Pepper? To the world? To Harley? To the world, he's a weapons developer playboy. To Pepper, a boyfriend and occasional boss. And to Harley, he's the mechanic. And that's what this film is about. It's why Tony spends so much time problem solving and day saving Sans suit. Iron Man isn't the suit. It's why his suits can actually function without him now, and why he started giving them their own reactors. It's why they're interchangeable, and why in the end, his part is actually completed through trapping the villain in a suit and fleeing without a suit. Mostly. The suit isn't Iron Man. Tony Stark is Iron Man. And then, to flip back to the Mandarin, he also claims,
"You know who I am."
However, the statement in and of itself is an oxymoron. Knowing who he is meaningless since, number one, the man saying the words is an actor, and number two, the world has no idea who the real Mandarin is, what he wants, or that he breathes fire. The idea of identity is played with throughout in a thought-provoking way. The Mandarin's biggest strength as a symbol of terror is his hidden and false identity. If I had to boil this movie down to one line, it would be,
we create our own demons.
And the reason I like that is because no matter what Tony does, that remains true. He created the Mandarin through ignoring and neglecting Killian, and then in Age of Ultron, in an attempt to build a suit of armor around the world. Well, it's in the title. And we all know what happens in Civil War. So really, it's the tagline for his life. I'd be happy to see an Iron Man 4, but as far as closing out Tony's story apart from the Avengers, Iron Man 3 is totally fulfilling. He chooses Pepper even if his demons continue to follow him going forward. Next week, that one with those people in that place doing a thing you all loved, but some of you hated.
I don't want to harp on this, but did you like the custom rabbit?
Did I like it? Well,
Nailed it, right?
Wow.
Is that normal?
Sadly, yes, this is normal.
It's very normal.
It's a big bunny. Relax about it.